I am here in Basque Country, a little outside of San Sebastian, Spain, and I am at a traditional cideria. And so I know I've been sharing a lot of Asturian cider stories with you, but we've moved on over to Basque Country. So I am going to show you around what a traditional Basque cider house is. Before I kind of step back there, let me just explain a little bit. So in Asturias, you saw a lot of what we were doing, which is basically they serve it by the bottle in Asturias. And so you're pouring it way up high in order to carbonate it, right? And so that's kind of what you do. The ciderias that you find in Asturias are really cider bars. Traditionally, you aren't going to cider houses like we are here. So right now where I am, they actually make the cider here. But in addition to making the cider, they also have a restaurant on site. Now that tradition is only about 50 years old. So they've been making cider in the Basque Country for hundreds and hundreds of years, okay? So let's be clear about that. This is not a new thing. But traditionally, it was all about the sailors. It was basically a regulation that any boat that left from here had to take cider with it. And so cider was a very popular drink with the sailors. It was a very popular drink with the locals. But it also got even more popular, and that's one of the reasons this became like a really hot cider region, is because the boats leaving here with the sailors were required to bring cider with them. Why were they required? They were required because water was not good for drinking, especially when taken on a boat for like months on end, right? And so the cider was actually something that was stable and okay and healthy to drink. And I believe today we were talking about this, the sailors were allowed to drink up to 3 liters of cider a day. So you can imagine, every boat leaving port here in San Sebastian was taking some cider with them. And they were taking enough cider with them that sailors could drink 3 liters of cider a day. So, surprise, lots of ciderias right here outside of San Sebastian in Basque Country. So, all right, so fast forward a little bit. So now we have this situation where you're in ciderias and it's kind of an experience. It's a locals experience. It's definitely a tourist experience. And so you have these areas where you have all these big barrels that are all behind me right here that you can see all of them. But anytime you enter a cideria, you're most likely going to be entering in through a restaurant. And why are you entering in through a restaurant? Well, because way back in the day, so you can see how they're pouring cider behind me here. This is called Txotx, T-X-O-T-X, Txotx. I'll let you watch that for a minute. So what had happened is, they used to have these ciderias, and they were usually family ciderias. Oh, muchas gracias. I'm getting some cider. And so back in the day, they would have these ciderias, and they would often be family ciderias. And they would invite people over because they would have these huge barrels full of cider, and they would only last for so long, right? And so you would open up your doors and invite people to have cider, and you would charge them a little bit of money to drink your cider. What they started to discover, so people would bring their own food, right? Because you want to eat a little bit while you're drinking. And so people would bring their own food. And what people started to discover, smartly, is that as you are drinking cider, if you're eating as well, I'm going to lift you up here again so you can see what's going on behind me. If you're eating while you're drinking cider, you're actually going to drink more cider. Shocking, right? We all know this. If you're eating while you're drinking, you're going to drink more. And so they smartly started to think, and a lot of times these ciderias, it would be the family lives above, and there would kind of be a cellar down below that wasn't really being used. They would have some of the barrels there, but they would have a lot of extra space. And so they started to think about, well, why don't we serve them food? Why are we letting them bring their own food? Why don't we serve them food? And then we can make double the money, right? We can charge them for food, charge them for cider. And oh, by the way, if they're eating while they're drinking more cider. So we're going to make even more money on the cider. So that's how this tradition started. And it actually didn't start all that long ago. It was about 50 years ago that they started really opening up these ciderias that also had restaurants as part of them. And so any cideria you visit today, basically, where you can eat and drink there, you're going to be entering through the restaurant. They're going to walk you right through the restaurant, and then the barrels will kind of be behind it. And so that's where this tradition comes from. And it's only about 50 years old. But like I said, cider making in the Basque region is much, much older than that. So they've been making cider forever, but they haven't been doing it in this way forever. But this way is super fun because you basically kind of keep coming in here and filling your glass with cider. I'm not drinking this fast enough, by the way. You should drink it pretty quickly. Because the reason they do the Txotx, which is the spout of cider from the barrel that you saw behind me a few minutes ago, the reason they do that is to kind of bring out that carbonation in it, bring out that natural carbonation and really kind of help carbonate it. So really you just pour yourself about 2 fingers worth and then you down the whole thing. And then when you're done with that, you go back in and you sit down to your communal meal. And it is always a communal meal. And traditionally the communal meal is a combination of kind of different cod dishes. So tonight so far we had a big baguette of bread, of course. But then we also had it was basically like scrambled eggs with some cod in it, which I know to a lot of you out there sounds a little weird, but it's delicious. And then we had fresh cod had some peppers and onions kind of cooked over it, which was just delicious. And then the main course is usually a kind of ribeye or T-bone or like basically a giant steak that is cooked almost like so rare it's practically still moving. And then after the steak, what you get is some cheese and membrillo and nuts, and that's kind of your dessert. And as you're eating, you just, whenever you feel like it, you get up and you come back into these different barrel rooms and you fill your cider cup. So that's what we're doing. So let me kind of spin you around a little bit. I'm going to walk us around a tiny bit. Someone from the staff here who is serving in this room. And so it's actually Igor, who is our friend. So I'm going to spin us around and I'm going to come over and see if he'll give us a little show after I finish my cider. Hold on. I was trying to get my cup empty. Normally I don't have such a hard time with this. We're filming. This is Igor. He was our guide. He works here. Is anyone going to drink cider? I need people to drink cider. Everyone just gets in line. There you go. That's a good view. It's actually a pretty beautiful art when people get it right and when they know what they're doing, because you kind of work as a little bit of a conveyor belt where you don't want to waste any cider, right? And so what you do is they open the spout and the first person comes in and they grab kind of their cup full and you bring it in. But as you're filling your cup, the person who's behind you next should really be putting their cup beneath yours. So as soon as you take your cup away, the cider is landing in their cup. Because, there is some waste in this process, of course, because you're shooting it out of a barrel and catching it in your cup, but you want to minimize the waste. So that's kind of what we're trying to do. Now let's go in the slightly warmer room. So in this room, you can actually serve yourself. There's a handle on this barrel, right? So if there's a handle on the barrel, that means you are welcome to serve yourself. If there's not a handle on the barrel, you are not welcome to serve yourself. So it's a very fun kind of communal process where you just kind of, you get to know people and you get in line and you jump in and you grab your cider. And then when you get your 2 fingers of cider, you kind of slam it down and then you go sit and eat a little bit of steak and eat a little bit of food and have some fun. And I'm gonna go eat my delicious steak because that's the course that I'm on. And I don't know about you, but I love me some steak. And I'm of course gonna go fill my now empty cup as well.